Hello and welcome to HITC Sport. Alright lads, I'm not even going to reference the scarf this week, alright? Lads, if we ever did a Q&A on this channel, I'm pretty sure half the questions would be marriage proposals for this fucking thing. Some guy has now made an Instagram for the scarf. I mean, for fuck's sake. I mean, I just don't understand the world anymore. I mean, getting straight into it because I'm sick of talking about the fucking scarf. I'm not going to have a look at the week. I'm going to have a look at the entire month of transfers. Because lads, there's been some weird business. But unlike the video we did a few days ago, I'm not going to grade them, but I am going to be expressing my deepest confusion at some of these deals. Who decides midway through a season, oh I know what'll save this relegation dogfight? Andy King. Right, so we might as well start with Arsenal first, a position they haven't occupied since 2004. It was painstakingly obvious going into this window that that club needed defenders. And let's be honest, a goalkeeper. You could have sent Peter Cech back out onto the pitch 20 minutes after getting concussed into next week by Stephen Hunt all those years ago, and he'd probably still put in a better shift than he's currently serving up. Scrodan Mustafi is proving that, well, you don't need to actually defend to cost 35 million. Well, Hector Bellerin's ambitions all involve combing his hair.
You need to learn that spice is a mad thing. It just means that that girl is nice.
By the way, how the is that man Spanish? He sounds like something out of Only Fools and Horses. Arsenal's defensive problems were so clear they could be seen from space. So naturally, Wenger decides to fork out 60 million on another striker. Yes, Aubameyang is a great forward, but bringing in both him and Mkhitaryan is a bit like if someone gets sick on your shoes, and so you could just go out and buy another hat. Or scarf.
This is great banter.
So Bournemouth up next, and guess how many players they signed this month? I'll give you a hint, it's the same number of Premier League titles as Steven Gerrard has won. Yeah, that's a way to alienate all the Liverpool fans. What's that, 2 minutes on the channel? Don't know why I did that, it's not even gonna watch there. This is why the scarf is your only friend. Alright, so just even it up lads, it's also the same number as siblings that are currently speaking to Ryan Giggs. Next up is Brighton, who took one huge leap forward in their club's progression by splashing out £14 million on PSV striker Jurgen Locadia. A man who's been sniffing around the Dutch national team in recent months. That might not be something to brag about these days actually. And then Brighton decided to take one huge leap backwards by signing Leonardo Ulloa on loan from Leicester. A man who, fair enough, was a good player for them in the Championship when he was playing against defenders like James Husband and Tyler Blackett, lads who had struggled to make my local five-a-side team. And we're shit. Burnley were quite busy, and that Sean Dyche, a man who sounds like he eats gravel for breakfast, decided to add a bit of pace to their side, and by Christ did they need pace. George's Kevin Nkudu, a man who commentators would love to smother in his sleep, arrived on loan from Tottenham. He's only ever played 23 times at White Hart Lane or Wembley or that shed out the back. Wherever they're playing these days, I don't know. Can't keep up. Let's see what he can do. Aaron Lennon has also arrived on loan from Everton. Remember when he signed for the Toffees and looked as though his cat had been brutally murdered in front of him? This time his smile is so wide you'd swear he was at the dentist. Either that or he just realised a lifelong dream of playing alongside Sam Vokes. Yeah, there's probably people at Stamford Bridge who've been wheeled away to the madhouse this month. Andy Carroll in the Champions League. Why don't I just put my cat in the fridge? I don't have a cat. I also don't have a fridge. Please don't tell people how I live. Ross Barkley signed for £15 million, just the 4 months after running out on the medical. Which is basically like a bride ditching her man at the altar, going back to the ex-boyfriend and then scuttling back 6 months later and saying, yeah, let's get married after all.
I can't change that I'm gorgeous.
Possibly not, Ollie, but you also can't change the fact that you're basically sentenced to live in London for the rest of your life, thanks to that tightly wound wife of yours. Borussia Dortmund apparently wanted him as part of that Aubameyang deal, but just like it was with the Everton move during the summer, Giroud's wife basically said,
I'm not moving.
Why do I get the feeling that man is going to be forced to hand out CVs to Charlton, Millwall and anywhere along the Canary Wharf in a few years? I mean, to be fair, there are worse places to live than London, like Iran, North Syria and Blackpool, but I mean, come on, it's a bit claustrophobic, isn't it? Also, Emerson Palmieri arrived from Roma for £17 million, but let's be honest, considering Edin Dzeko didn't come with him, it's a bit like inviting the Neville brothers to a party and just getting Phil, or in other words, the one who clearly needs parental supervision every time he goes on the internet. Oh yeah, by the way lads, a very new Twitter I've opened in the last week or so. If you want to follow me there, work away. Right, so let's just see what Roy Hodgson said 2 weeks ago, alright? He described the current injury crisis at Crystal Palace as the worst he'd ever seen in management, that it would be ludicrous not to bring in players, and that he needed 4 signings, including a goalkeeper. Right, so let's see what happens. Alexander Sorloth, who sounds like something straight out of Westeros, arrived from FC Midtjylland for £9 million. He's a striker, yeah, fair enough. Vicente Guaitse, oh, watch the Irish guy can't pronounce for shit. Yeah, I clearly can't dress myself either. Anyway, Guaite was the goalkeeper who nearly arrived from Getafe. They couldn't get it over the line. So now Palace are stuck with just Wayne Hennessy and, God help us all, Julian Speroni as the two senior goalkeepers for the rest of the season. If only they had a French international goalkeeper to call on instead of the next in line being an actual training cone and then Bob the Kitman. Everton smashed their transfer record to get a striker in. Cenk Tosun arriving from Besiktas for £27 million. He hasn't got off to a great start, but £20 million Theo Walcott has, scoring 2 against Leicester. Who knows, maybe this guy's England's next great hope. Oh, that's right, it's not 2006 anymore. Good news for Sacha Baron Cohen then, he's not facing about 7 lawsuits. Aliki Mangala also ended up at Everton on loan. Just a quick rewind back to July 2017. If he ever plays for City again, not only will I eat my hat, but I will swallow my entire laptop. I really need to stop saying stupid shit. Moving on to Huddersfield, Alex Pritchard seems to move around a lot. Can he actually do it in the Premier League? Spurs obviously don't think so. That's why they fobbed him off to Norwich for £8 million in 2016. But he's back with Huddersfield now, an £11 million signing. They also signed Terence Congolo from Monaco, who I'm yet to be convinced is not Anthony Martial posing in a wig. Yes, we could talk about Leicester getting diabetes this month. Diabete for £3.5 million. Of course, Leicester won't be catching diabetes. Well, this guy might. He must have a slice of cake every time Riyad Mahrez hands in a transfer request. Speaking of which, the Algerian was at it again. After writing a farewell letter to the fans back in May, which is nearly a year ago now, he's handed in another transfer request and it just stopped going to work after Man City made a £60 million bid. Now fair enough, Leicester did sign the guy with about as much cash as Neymar uses to tip at Subway with, and he's gone on to win them the league, but saying that he's depressed because they're practically keeping him prisoner. Did somebody have a gun to your head when you were signing a 4-year contract worth 100 grand a week, did they? Jesus Christ, if you didn't want to play with Mark Albright and Wes Morgan for the next 4 years, you should have spoke up. I don't get footballers. Alright. Moving on to Liverpool, Virgil van Dijk for £75 million. Yeah, they lost Coutinho to Barcelona, a transfer that Stevie Wonder could have telegraphed, but chucking away half that fee on Van Dijk? Did they learn nothing from spending half the Torres money on Andy Carroll? Is he worth being the most expensive defender of all time? In the top 10 most expensive players ever? Worth more than Suarez, De Bruyne, even Kyle Walker? He's like me walking into a shop and paying a tenner for a packet of crisps. Next summer, Maya Yoshida to Liverpool for £30 million. Speaking of clubs that pay too much for centre backs, Man City just smashed their club transfer record. £57 million for Aymeric Laporte, a man who does not even have an international cap to his name. Yeah, he's a top player. The 23-year-old proved that at Athletic Bilbao, but there are defenders who are currently at Stoke, Crystal Palace and the Unemployment Office who have played more times for France than him in the last 2 years. Just saying. Alright, who here thought Alexis Sanchez was going to end up at Old Trafford this month? Let's be honest, the Chilean looked about as happy at the Emirates as I did when I saw every comment on the last video was about the scarf. I think we all assumed he was going to end up with Pep Guardiola at Man City. I mean, there's a free Premier League medal on offer in May, but who needs that when you can just get 400 grand a week? Just like my fashion sense, apparently. Newcastle United's transfer window was a complete and utter farce. You only ever needed to watch Rafa Benitez's side for 20 minutes to realise they needed players, and that Mike Ashley needed to spend some goddamn money. But no, he's instead forced Benitez to scrounge around for a few loan deals. Kennedy and Islam Slimani both came from the benches of Chelsea and Leicester City respectively, and Martin Dubravka came from Sparta Prague.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Oh, don't worry Michael, that transfer record that was broken for you back in 2005 remains very much intact. If Mike Ashley was still here in 10 years, as Newcastle owner I mean, not, alive and breathing, although he might want to lay off the saturated fats, then I swear to God, the transfer record would still be untouched, while the likes of Huddersfield and Ipswich would be spending £20 million on left backs. And yes, Ipswich fans, by 2028 I'm predicting you're going to have got promoted at least once. Not you though, Millwall. Your club will instead have refurbished itself as a modern day fight club, except nobody looks like Brad Pitt. Oh, actually Ipswich, while I have you here, I'm not covering championship clubs today, but might as well throw in this news. You've signed Neymar. Except he goes by the name of Barry Cotter and he comes from Limerick. But someone try and tell me those two are not separated at birth. So Southampton went to Monaco and signed Guido, not you, Christ, somebody needs to chuck a gallon of bleach into his protein shake, Carrillo for £19 million. See Mike, that's someone spending more than 16 million on a centre foot, and no one's making a fuss. Probably because it's 2018 and owners aren't allergic to spending a bit of money. Is this fella a good signing? He's a striker and he scored 15 goals in the last 3 seasons, so yeah, he's class. But then again, I'm fairly confident my Uncle Pete would look good alongside Shane Long these days. Stoke City's main business was the £14 million capture of Badu Ndiaye from Galatasaray. Stoke fans seem pretty happy with the transfer, but the only thing is they've only gone and given him Bojan's number 27. They're not too happy about that one. We all dream of a team of Ayus, except we don't. Nobody does, because they're both Alright, no, to be fair, that's a bit harsh. Andre did pretty well in his first spell at Swansea. 12 goals, not bad. And so far, Jordan is 8 this season. They once had a season together at Marseille where they scored 22 goals between them. Somehow, I bet it was always their dream to play together in a small village of South Wales, surrounded by sheep and Leon Britton. They've also signed Andy King as a player. I don't know if he counts. I mean... Remember when Lucas Moura was incessantly chased by Manchester United for the duration of 2012? Before he ended up at PSG with Alex Ferguson basically saying it was madness to pay £40 million for a 19-year-old.
Oh, yes!
Let's just pretend that never happened. Well, when Tottenham paraded the £25 million recruit at half-time against Manchester United the other day, when they were winning 2-0, it's all a bit awkward, wouldn't it? Watford fired their manager in January, but I think everyone saw that coming. Marco Silva, I wouldn't even bother unpacking if I was you. You'll be out of a job in about 9 months, regardless of how well you do.
You'll be out of a job in about 9 months, regardless of how well you do.
And believe me lads, I'm not going to win any awards for that f***ing prediction. Maybe I should win an award for recording a video despite clearly getting ready in the dark. Those sidebirds are a hazard to society. So the new fella, Javi Gracia, not to be confused with Javi Garcia, the big lump of human sand who masqueraded as a footballer at Man City, has brought in a couple of loans. First Gerard Deulofeu from Barcelona, and then Didier Ndong from Sunderland. Who says you can't be the kind of guy to do your shopping at both Debenhams and Oxfam? Ever wonder what it's like? They have stopped watching a long time ago. They're only here for the scarf, and Pat for the pigeon they'll have turned off to watch the YouTube boxing fight. Marketed as McGregor versus Mayweather, but in reality it'll be more like watching two drunken hobos slug it out for the last bacon sandwich outside the back of Tesco's. Anyway, where were we? Oh yeah, Daniel Sturridge, just signed for West Brom on loan. I'm surprised the man was able to pass a medical. He seems like the kind of guy who'd break his ankle stepping off the bus. What am I talking about? Footballers don't get the bus.
Bus wankers!
Phil Neville does get the tube though, and by God do real people terrify him. As always, West Ham were linked with everyone, and ended up with João Mario from Inter Milan on loan, and to be fair, he looks a decent player. They also signed Jordan Hugo from Preston for £9 million. I say they're still dancing in the streets of Preston. Anyway, that's the end of the video lads. It was just a bit of a ramble really. Anyway, cheers for watching lads. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and as always, I'll talk to you in a while.